high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
Are ready.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Glad to be back. I was traveling last town hall. These lovely gentlemen, of course, took over for me, and I'm sure they did a great job. But I do have a couple stories tonight. We got Dave, Dan, Rob, and Blunty. Alex might be joining us here in a little bit, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. Let me see if I can get this going. All right. So first up, yep, got it. Dismiss. All right. So first up this evening, we've got the Senate version of the NDAA holds off on DJI drone ban demand. So the Senate Armed Services Committee has released its version of the National Defense Authorization Act, which notably omits the demand to ban new DJI drones from entering the U.S. market. The House passed its version of the bill last month with provisions to stop the FCC from issuing new licenses to DJI over national security concerns. Featuring amendments from the Countering CCP Drones Act, the House version of the NDAA required the FCC to add DJI to its covered list. If DJI is added to this list, the FCC would no longer be able to approve new equipment authorizations for DJI products or software in the U.S. The agency could also create a process to revoke existing authorizations, although it's highly unlikely. The Senate's decision to exclude the ban from its version of the NDAA reflects a more cautious approach towards the issue. DJI drones are widely used across varying sectors, including agriculture, infrastructure, and public safety, and a sudden prohibition could disrupt ongoing projects and impede progress in critical areas. Recently, and I think we covered this last time, recently representatives of more than 6,000 public safety agencies, police, and fire departments with drone programs across the U.S. wrote to the members of the Senate Armed Services Committee to oppose the inclusion of the Countering CCP Drones Act in the NDAA. Despite current reprieve, the future of DJI drones remains uncertain. So, I mean, this could be a little bit of great news. Now, generally what happens, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, is we've got a House version, we've got a Senate version, and then they take both those versions, they smash them together and work out what's going to be in the final, correct?
Yeah, the next next paragraph characterizes it very nicely, is that we almost have a Senate version. So this is out of committee. Now it has to go to the floor of the Senate and pass the Senate for a full vote. Highly probable it will pass. Then, in as much as the two bills are different, they have to go through a reconciliation process, which depending on how different the bill is, it will then have to go back to both chambers for votes Assuming that all that passes both the House and the Senate, then it goes to the president's desk for signature.
So definitely a step in the right direction. Hopefully this flushes out in the way we kind of hope it will. I know there's a lot of agencies out there. There's a lot of people using DJI drones, and there's a severe lack of anything. And we've discussed this 100 times. Severe lack of anything out there to replace these exclusively for all the different sectors that are utilizing them. Rob, did you have something, brother?
Yeah, I was just gonna add on there. We're not out of the weeds yet. So I quantify this as we won the skirmish, but we have not won the war.
Correct.
So it's a huge step in the right direction. But anybody that hasn't already, I still would encourage you to reach out on behalf of the DAA. Keep sending the letters, keep sending the opinions, because there's still a chance that things could change. And additionally, I'm afraid we're going to be facing this every legislative session.
Yeah, the people pushing for this are still pushing for it. They're not gone just because it didn't make it this time.
Right.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, and it comes down to education.
Yeah, but well said, Dan. And as we've said, Congressional Representative Stefanik is the third-ranking person in the House, so a very high-ranking representative, and as evidenced by that she's been able to get 2 pieces of legislation on the floor so very quickly.
So, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, John Tester in the Senate submitted an independent bill basically doing the same thing, right?
I was told that he had indicated that he was going to, but last I checked, as of a few weeks ago, I could find no standalone bill. So unless something's changed, I'm not aware of any right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates on that either. So, okay, cool. All right. So this is an interesting article. This is from KFF Health News. Rescue from above: how drones may narrow emergency response times. So, excuse me, I apologize. I'm getting over being sick. Drones are coming starting in September. If someone in Clemens, North Carolina calls 911 to report a cardiac arrest, the first responder on the scene may be a drone carrying an automated external defibrillator, or an AED. The idea is for the drone to get there several minutes before first responders, such as an emergency medical technician or an ambulance, said Daniel Cruz, a spokesman for the Sheriff's Office in Forsyth County, where Clemens is located. The Sheriff's Office is partnering on the project with local emergency services, the Clinical Research Institute at Duke University, and the drone consulting firm HoveCon. The ultimate goal is to save lives and improve life expectancy for someone experiencing a cardiac episode. More than 356,000 people have a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital setting every year in the United States. Most people are at home when it happens, and about 90% die because they don't get immediate help from first responders or bystanders. Every minute that passes without medical intervention decreases the odds of survival by 10%. We've never been able to move the needle for cardiac arrest in private settings, and this technology could meet that need. A 2017 study found it takes an emergency medical service unit 7 minutes on average to arrive on the scene following a 911 call. Stark said she believes the drone-delivered AEDs in the pilot study could reduce the time to treatment by 4 minutes compared with first responders. So this is pretty cool. I don't know if anybody here has had experience with the AEDs or any training on them, but they're pretty, I guess the word is stupid simple. And with pictograph and written instructions on them, it's really kind of just a pull set, hit the button kind of situation, and it's automatic after that. So, I would say a little bit of championing how to use these devices, as well as combined with this, is definitely a drones for good kind of situation. And I mean, for me, I'd love to see the results of how this works and continuing information on this. So,
yeah, and we've talked about the business case, or what's the business model, and boy, this is one. And we talk about the golden hour for photography with FPV. Well, there's a golden hour of 1 hour after a cardiac event that if you're not intervening, then the chances of survival are really low, as cited by the 10% per minute. I mean, you don't need a lot of minutes to click away, where life expectancy is not good. So this is fantastic, and this really does argue for, if you can get there a couple minutes earlier, the cost of an expensive drone and the whole infrastructure to drive it, probably worth it. Good. So
Mhm.
good use case.
So Rick LeBlanc is asking in YouTube that this has to be done over beyond visual line of sight. So how are they allowed to do that with waivers
So
and
it
such?
may, I mean, it'd be a waiver process through the FAA. The FAA has been getting those waivers out, and that's just one of the hurdles that these companies, like I guess it's HoveCon, will have to kind of jump through to get that approval.
Yeah, that good question. There are now hundreds of PV loss waivers that have been granted.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, they mentioned.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. Typically, you kind of to delve into that topic, the way that the FAA, at least currently, are approving the BB loss waivers, you get for Part 91 for the public safety side. You have very limited cases where you can fly BB loss if it's near proximity. But if you're wanting to cover an area, say a city, the only two ways that I've seen that have successfully met the see and avoid requirements is either the integration of a radar-based system or the introduction of a optical electrical detection, essentially really high-tech cameras that can see and avoid other unmanned manned threats. So the radar is the preferred method because you can cover like up to a 10-mile area, very expensive. But the camera arrays obviously require a whole lot more ground stations. So there could be other ways that are pending on the waiver process, but on the Part 91, that's the only two ways that I'm familiar with that have confirmed been granted the waiver regulatory approval.
And Plenty, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just gonna say, at the bottom of the article, they talk about the PVLOS stuff like a little bit, and then I just also thought it was interesting the last two paragraphs, like they still found a way. Somebody found a way to inject bad about drones.
Some civil liberty groups are concerned that the FAA rules might not provide enough protection from drone cameras for people on the ground. Oh, it's ridiculous, and that's going to come up in the next article. And I'm sure Rob, and maybe you can chime in here as somebody who has experience with drones as first responder programs. Like, what's the community like reaction to drone use by police or let's say rescue services or anything like that?
Great question, Josh. So I think the education, transparency, public outreach is just as important as running a program. So I know at least locally, we post all of our upcoming missions that are non-sensitive, and we post all of our previous missions even after the fact if they were sensitive. On the education front, I feel like when people understand why and how we're using them and how the data is being stored, how it's being managed, what the policies are, I mean, very stringent rules and regs. Usually I've never met a person that's not breaking the rules that did not support it after they understood it. Typically the bad guys aren't the biggest supporters of unmanned or uncrewed aircraft integration. But general citizens, though, after they understand the execution of it, it's generally overwhelming support.
So I think in the case, and there was a Wired article that I think I covered a couple of meetings ago, where they talk about this. Where what was the name of the city in California, Rob?
Chula Vista.
And Chula Vista, yeah. So they were one of the first, or the first, really, to issue a citywide drones as first responders program, primarily with the police. And they detailed the amount of transparency that they go through to, kind of inform the public of what they're doing, what areas they flew over, that kind of thing. And I think a big part of that is number one, education, public outreach. I think is going to be key for programs like this, and then transparency. I think transparency is the biggest one, so people can see kind of what the police are actually doing with these drones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much cool stuff because even like the flight management software that the majority of public safety entities use is called DroneSense. It even if the pilot is not recording, it logs the position of the aircraft as well as the gimbal angle on the camera, so you can look at essentially a Google Earth overlay, and you can see where that camera into the flight logs. So there's a whole lot of accountability there. If somebody thinks a drone's over their house spying on them, it's really easy to go back and pull the data and see exactly where that drone was and exactly where it was looking, even if no recording exists.
Right. 100%. And I think with every, public entity, there's ways to obviously lodge a complaint or file, just ask questions, right? So if you're concerned about stuff like that, utilize those resources and get some answers, but I think beyond that, I think overall, I think we're going to see more and more of this, and the next article is going to highlight this specifically in the Phoenix area, and specifically Scottsdale. They're rolling out a new program here as well, so it'll be interesting to see that how this works, and I can kind of keep tabs on it from a local perspective on how it works, and obviously we've got Rob, who this is what he does, and I think as a way to deal with public safety, you can see the good, you can see the bad, you just kind of have to figure out where you sit on it, and really push that transparency and public education. Any other thoughts on that? All right. So, kind of tapping into that, a police drone might respond to your next 911 call. So, a new generation of crime fighting drones is about to take flight, starting in Arizona. They can be dispatched quickly in an emergency, flying above traffic to assess the situation even before police or firefighters arrive on the scene. But they come with serious privacy concerns that have yet to be addressed. Again, Flock Safety, whose cameras and gunshot detection systems are used by police departments nationwide, is integrating first responder drones from a startup called Aerodome in its crime-solving platform, Axios reports. Scottsdale, Arizona police will get the drones first, the company said, but other cities are expected to follow. Flock already supplies thousands of police agencies in 49 states with license plate readers, gunshot sensors, and analytic software. These license plate readers are all over the place. And as somebody who works in a retail environment, they're very effective. Adding autonomous drones to the mix will help police respond to incidents in real time, the company says. How it works: when a Flock camera detects a stolen vehicle or a car associated with an Amber Alert, an officer or dispatcher can push a button to automatically send a rooftop drone to the location in less than 90 seconds. A drone can also serve as a force multiplier. If only one officer is available when 2 911 calls come in, the dispatcher can send the drone to silently track a suspect. Drones can also protect officers and bystanders by replacing high-speed car chases, Flock says. So instead of, a high-speed car chase happening through the city, a drone can obviously float from above or fly from above and reduce the chance of detection and panic in said suspect.
Silently follow somebody. What kind of drones do they have?
Well, if they're high enough,
Yeah.
right? They're not going to hear them. So let's see. About 2 dozen agencies currently have drone as first responder programs, with more planned. According to Charles Werner, director of nonprofit Drone Responders, the extra eye in the sky may prove helpful to first responders, but they also raise privacy and Fourth Amendment concerns. The Phoenix Police Department only recently began using drones, in part because of pushback from residents who feared they could be employed for illegal surveillance. We're very concerned that we may be moving to a future where we find ourselves constantly scanning the skies, seeing drones overhead, and feeling like the eyes of the law enforcement are always upon us, American Civil Liberties Union policy analyst Jay Stanley wrote last year. That's no way for anybody to have to live. More than 1,500 police departments nationwide already use drones for search and rescue, crowd monitoring, and crime scene investigation. Yeah, I mean, there's again, we talk about beyond visual line of sight waivers opening the door to remotely operated fleets. Aerodome says its pilots can operate 3 or 4 drones simultaneously from one computer. That's cool. I want to see that. So, I mean, this is going to be more and more. I imagine this will be interesting to see its use in Scottsdale. Not close to me geographically in terms of, it is, halfway across the city in a very large metropolitan area, but definitely will be interesting to see how they do their public outreach and that kind of stuff on this. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. I got 2 more. This one is going to be very brief. I thought this was interesting. So the Pentagon holds toughest drone defense demo to date. So this is also fairly local to me. This happened in this takes place in the Yuma Proving Grounds in southern Arizona. So with drone strikes in the news from Kiev to Tel Aviv, the Pentagon's all-service drone defense program just held its most ambitious field demonstration yet, with up to 50 unmanned aircraft of different types converging on a single target at a time. The JCO demonstrations at Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona, first held in April 2021, take prototype systems developed by private firms and test their ability to defend against drones. This year's especially ambitious event focused on repeated swarm attacks, although the details of the scenario were not shared with the vendors beforehand. Attacking waves coming from differing altitude and angles also include multiple types of drones, fast jets, slower prop-driven drones, and mini helicopters, ranging in size from under 20 pounds to over 1,000 pounds. On the defending side, Parent told reporters Tuesday the vendor's prototype defense systems all showed a greater level of maturity and offered much better solutions to the threat than those at previous demos. They're still crunching data from Demonstration 5, which ran from June 3rd to June 28th. Once done, the first reports will not go to the press, but to military service, combatant commanders worldwide, and to the 8 vendors involved. Let's see. Instead of being built around a single weapon, most of these offerings were layered defenses that combine multiple sensors to detect the drones, which are often too low, slow, and small for radar and effectors to take them down. So it's interesting that they're having to layer these. It's such an interesting technology that just, let's just say something like the Iron Dome in Israel. It's a radar-based system, uses one type of effector or a rocket to take down other rockets, whereas this requires radars, cameras, infrared, radio frequency scanners, and they use multiple different systems to try and take these down, including machine guns, frequency jammers, all different kinds of things to be able to take down these drones. So interesting. I thought it was interesting in terms of a multi-layered approach and why it's required for something like a drone. And so, yeah, that's all I have on that. Thoughts? Any questions?
Well, as the geek in me and mechanical engineer think, boy, I'd like to work on that. That'd be
right.
The technology is fascinating, and I mean, we're helping our troops, so yeah, I'm good with it.
I don't want to test fly against it.
Right?
Yeah,
That
definitely.
was my thought. I was like,
I
oh
want to see
man,
if I can get
I wanna
through.
go against the system, right? So I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
for
a new
sure.
addition to, like, instead of add a drone festival or a drone race, also have a drone obstacle course, like try to get through without getting taken out, kind of thing.
Right.
That would
So
be
maybe we
so
could
cool.
have an FPV event at the Yuma Proving Grounds. What do you think they give camping permits? Do you think, Josh?
That would be hilarious. I would love to see that. Oh man. All right. So last but not least, this is a instrument of what not to do. So FAA investigating Pensacola Beach Blue Angels drone video. So wouldn't want to be this guy. But the FAA is investigating a drone video that was shot on Pensacola Beach earlier this month. The video shows the drone coming close to the Blue Angels as they returned home from one of their air shows. Neither the drone or the Blue Angels were damaged, but some professional drone pilots say this incident was too close for comfort. Chris Wallace, a professional drone pilot certified by the FAA, called the video dangerous. Very dangerous for the pilot. In fact, dangerous for all the pilots. If there was an emergency situation and they needed to veer from the path that they were on, the drone was right dead in their path. If a bird could take an airplane down, a drone could take an airplane down. The FAA says it's now investigating the video to see if it violated any of the rules and regulations. An FAA report showed that between January and March of this year, the FAA received 327 reports of drones coming too close to aircraft and airports nationwide. All drone pilots, whether you're professional or recreational, have the obligation to stay away from any crewed aircraft. Also, no aircraft could be operated in a careless or reckless manner. So, would not want to be this individual. And obviously there's an investigation, but this is just don't do this.
Yeah,
Don't-
as our good friend Greg Grevendew would say, don't be that guy. And I
Yeah,
agree. Don't do
100%.
this.
So, but with that, that's all I have for this evening. And Dave,
I had a couple topics. First, from a transparency perspective, Josh Cook and I are no longer working for Flight Test, so we now devote a little more time to flight or to FPVFC, as well as other things like the next topic, which is the Drone Advisory Council. So I've wrapped up a draft. It's only about 4 pages. The topic is standard remote ID. We'll be sending that around internally, as I did this afternoon, and then across the Drone Advisory Council, and then getting that to the FAA. As we circulate that, we'll make that public on our own website so that folks can see. It's really pretty straightforward. We surveyed recreational and manufacturers of drones and asked, were they implementing standard remote ID? And none of them were. And so the point to the FAA is that we have some recommendations on how we might get to compliance eventually. But right now, there's no clear path to compliance. And I'll bring the document in. We'll go through that in some detail. Another item is that we are starting to prepare for the Beyond Visual Line of Sight notice for public rulemaking. Alex was at the drone safety team meeting, and one of the FAA folks said that their best estimate is that they will get that NPRM out before the end of this year. Now, we can all make jokes and tease about the FAA on schedule, but the fact that this is now coming, it is, of course, part of the FAA Reauthorization Act that they're supposed to get this out the door quickly. We participated in the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC. Dan and I spent hours on calls working that. So we'll go back over those notes. I think the document was 304 pages. Plus, they left out 95 pages of section that we spent a lot of time on, and it was around deconfliction for under 500 feet. So a rather important section. So we'll be bringing up the points that we painstakingly brought forward for that arc in the comment period, and so we'll be making that very public as we work through that. Finally, I'm hoping that either Alex or Rob are able to say a couple words. They're both going to the FAA symposium, and our thanks to FPVFC member support that we're able to fund their travel, and that's primarily where the membership funding goes, is to our travel. And Josh, that's all I had.
All right, cool. Rob, I know you had something you wanted to talk about. Google Wing, right?
Yeah, I was actually able to see a Google Wing demo, which was pretty cool. That's the Walmart delivery. So they're anticipating 75% of the DFW Metroplex being eligible for drone delivery by the end of this year. So that's what we're being told. So kind of a neat thing. It's essentially foam aircraft. They run on lipos. They're actually controlled from an ops center that's about 45 minutes away from our city. So it's kind of an interesting concept. All the pilots are well separated. The only personnel on site are just loading the drones. That's all they're doing. They're taking the Walmart orders and they're putting them in little bags and they're attaching them to the aircraft. I asked specifically on the, under Part 135, how they're satisfying the see and avoid requirement. And I was told that essentially they're just monitoring ADS-B. They're concerned with other manned collisions, and us being within the mode CVL 30 miles from KDFW International, anybody in that area has to be broadcasting. So it's kind of an interesting approach. I asked specifically if they have ADBS out. They do not. They only have remote ID. They are compliant with remote ID. But as we all know, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth isn't really a very effective long-range transmission protocols. So they have no apparent or no unmanned to unmanned mitigation detection equipment. So it's kind of interesting.
Just a quick question.
Sorry?
So are they not operating through like a unmanned traffic management system or something like that?
So part of the whole DFW Keysight project, it's voluntary to work with the USS providers, that's unmanned service suppliers, where you have to enter in flight plans. Wing is one of them that's participating in it. So
okay.
Right now, the way it's going to work long term is one day everybody will have to enter in their flight plans, and it'll be automated whether it allows you to do it or not, and hopefully the capability to reroute if there is any kind of collision potential. So, but yeah, they are, to answer your question, but it's not required.
Interesting.
Is there any chance you could talk? I don't know if you had any idea like what you feel about or what you can say, but like when you go into an operation like that, like when you look at what they're doing, right? Do you feel like it was it's a thing that's going to keep working, or it's like a setup thing to show that it will work, and then eventually they do a better way to do everything? Does that make sense? Like, does it feel like it's still in development and it's still all fancy and shiny and nothing's really, you know what I mean? Or is it like, hey, we've done this for 10 years and we're actually got something that works and it's a streamlined process and we're going cheap and we're not dumping money everywhere and there's not 10 people standing around and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Blunny. I think there's going to be a whole lot of lessons learned from it. And back on our perspective, I know this isn't what we're wanting on the recreational side, but what I am foreseeing is I think network remote ID will definitely be a thing in the near and sooner than later future, because ultimately you still have that human error element where you're entering in flight plans, and you do have a compliance mechanism where you are being reviewed, I'm told, for this whole study. But I mean, I think this is just the beginning of it, Blunty. I think it's more of a proof of concept. I think it can be done safely, but I do think that the network remote ID is going to be a big topic in the next few years.
So I think the question he's asking is did it feel like a refined delivery operation, or does it seem like there's they're still kind of flying by the seat of their pants kind of scenario.
No, I felt it was pretty refined. I mean, my only concern, my big concern was how do you deconflict from other unmanned traffic? And the answer is you can't.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, Google has run, I think, about 500,000 flights, and most of them outside of the United States, and specifically in Australia, where there's a more embracing civil air authority. And so I bet, Blunty, that from the sound of it, there are aspects of the Google Wing program that are advanced, and there are others that are not. To me, the aircraft looks quite advanced, but the procedures and the safety and the communications, I bet that's farther behind from what we know and what we're hearing. Good question.
Just from the angle of like,
Is it feasible?
if you're like trying to run this, you're like, that's a different way to run a business than having, like, there's two ways to run a business, right? There's one is like, we could like have all this fund money from Google dumping into new projects like they always do, right? Way more money than we need probably to do what we're doing. And we're spending it on whatever, right? So to spend it on whatever, to build faster and to grow faster and to do R&D and to have more employees to do this and that and design more processes, right? But then there's another way to do it, which is like, hey, here's a budget, and let's see if you can actually run a business at this budget for a year or two doing this process. And if that makes sense, the reason I ask all this is because, one, Google has a giant habit of dumping projects.
Right.
Like Google has so many dead projects. Like for Google, it would be nothing to kill Wing tomorrow, right? They've dumped so much money in it, and compared to other things they've done, it wouldn't matter, right? But the other side of it is that they're delivering for Walmart. Like what's the money here, right? What is there real like we've talked about this many times, but like specifically speaking, like if you're doing so many deliveries and you're doing so much investment, you're trying to expand to so much area, and like, is it real? Are you really doing it to build a business, or are you doing it because you're just getting more Google money to push a bigger bubble, and then eventually it will pop, right? That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I knowing and talking to a number of the Google folks, as well as watching what all they're killing and how they're trimming back on projects, would not surprise us. Yet, so why Walmart? Is it just they're interested in numbers, or Walmart certainly is a partner that is interested in delivery, so they could be a potential long-term customer?
The original announcement about this whole thing from Drone Up and Google Wing and that whole idea, what the Walmart specifically stuff was that they're within a mile or two of most customers in most of the United States. Like you just do a quantity number, and they would be interested from that level. And they all have roofs that aren't being used in most places, so like it sort of works out, right? You reinforce a roof and drop a bunch of drones up there, you literally don't have any more land footprint, and it made sense to some people. I think the other thing Wing had been doing though is roll up a trailer and then we'll deliver whatever you want next to your business, right? So like,
they want to be an all knowing, all function service integrator, systems integrator.
It's just hard to know from the outside perspective of like, is this still a bunch of R&D money dumping into something, or is this a company trying to build something for the future, right? Because those seem like two different things sometimes in Silicon Valley, right? Like you're saying, I don't know, like, is somebody babysitting this project to make sure it's going to be real?
Well, and I think the thing with drone delivery that always has gotten me is, is it a solution? Is it a solution in search of a problem, or an actual, a problem and here's a solution, right? So if most customers are within a couple miles of a Walmart, is it that much of a convenience to have something under 5 pounds delivered in 15 minutes? Or, is it just go get in your car and drive 5 miles down the road to Walmart?
Yeah, this is why your news article of the AED delivery, that to me, that makes a ton of sense.
Right.
And that's why Amazon has been targeting the 10-mile, 5 pound, I think, something like that, right? Because they're thinking the same way. They're like, we need to cut out all these people driving packages. Like they have a reasonable thing they are trying to get rid of. Whereas like the rest of these are like, even like pizza delivery, or like Walmart, local like runners running things places or whatever. But yeah, like you said, how much demand is there really? And then Are you creating
Now,
something that people don't actually need?
And on the cost side, Blunty, I have a couple more clues that might. I see the direction you were going with the question. I missed the mark on that. I know at least the location I saw, it was set up in the middle of the parking lot, and they were running it off of a generator. Like they had one of the big commercial generators, big diesel fuel generators that they're using to power all the charging equipment, sensors, and all that stuff. And I asked specifically, because I was, thinking in my head, like, you got to have a lot of drone deliveries to make money. And it's a lot of money to staff the drone deliveries and load up the equipment, maintain the equipment. And I asked how that's working. Is there going to be a surcharge? Is there an upcharge? Like, who's covering the cost of this? They said no, it's a Walmart thing. It's free. It's included. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know how the funding's laying out, but as of right now, at least in this pilot program, they're not upcharging it to the end consumer, which is interesting. I don't know that is necessarily sustainable or profitable in the long term. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Right.
At least in the other models of these, like Uber, for instance, like Uber just started getting more expensive in the last few years. Uber was insanely cheap. They would slam you with deals. They would like give you free rides everywhere. They just wanted you to use Uber, and there was seed money dumping into doing that. I was commuting to work during that time, and I just got free rides all the time everywhere. It was crazy. Like there was coupons upon coupon. You do this and refer 5 people and you get 10 free rides and they give you free money. I did the same thing with the Postmates app. When Postmates app came out, I was able to put a referral code on one of those websites people go to when they Google referral codes. And I literally got $10 free for every person because they forgot to set it to like, it literally credited you $10 and it stacked. So I had thousands of dollars for free and I could order anything I wanted. It covered the delivery fee. It covered the tips. It covered everything.
Oh my goodness.
So I think there's a lot of companies like that, and that do those kind of things to blow up the service. We want to get we want to get users, we want to get people using the service, we want to show deliveries, we want to have people working under us, like all those kind of things, right? And yeah, it sounds like they're still in that phase of like we're going to subsidize this process on all the sides and just make it work and be showing it versus actually making the money on it, right?
And that's my thought process, right? Is it are we just creating something to showcase it, or is there a demand that let's say they flip that switch and say, hey, we're going to be charging $5 for drone delivery to get your package in 15 minutes? Is that worth it? Is that going to be enough worth to continue this, right? So I don't know. That remains to be seen.
I just got the weird twinge where I thought about like, what if they like incentivize drone deliveries by like upcharging or taxing other types of deliveries, right?
Oh, jeez. Or pick up in store. Here's a $5 extra charge.
Right, because we want to get you off the road because it spends money. There's road costs, right? Like, and I don't know. That's a weird place to go, but I could see.
I was looking at it from the other direction of if you're you own a shipping firm and you've been subbed to do deliveries, and all of a sudden, this subsidized drone business is cutting you out. That's predatory pricing, and that's illegal. So, you have grounds for a suit there. So, this could be a mess.
So one thing I'd also look at from the business side of it is company Watts Innovations. They're closing, and they made the Prism Sky, which is what DroneUp was using for their drone deliveries. I don't know if it has any relation to it, but that was a product that was being used for drone deliveries by DroneUp, and that company appears to have closed.
Interesting.
So that is interesting. Yeah, you would think if DroneUp's that would be a large portion of their business you would consider. So then is that a lack of orders that's causing that?
Right. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you, Rob, for that. Blunty, you have anything for us this evening? No?
Right. Just one, which is, I don't know if you guys talked about it before, but if you have an HTRC C240 charger, do not use it. They are being recalled.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was that charger again, Blunty?
The HTRC C240 charger. Here, I can put a link in the chat here so we can get it over. But basically, you almost never see this for FPV items, of course, But this is the Consumer Protection, whatever the actual technical name is, the CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission.
Wow. This thing must be bad.
Yes, that's what you would think, right? They said they've also received a bunch of reports from this company in general, and this specific charger triggered enough warnings for them to actually recall it. So
Okay. All right. That's important. Thank you for the mention. Yeah. And it's, we've got
32 reports of fire or other thermal incidents.
yeah.
Oh,
And
boy.
on our website, Dan has written a great battery article, and we get a little casual with our LiPo or lithium ion batteries. Please be careful.
Yes.
As spoken by the
Just toss 'em in
grandfather
an
of the
ammo
group.
can.
Say again.
Let's just toss them in an ammo can.
With the seal partially removed.
I just take out the seal completely.
There you go. That works.
All right. So if you've got this
All right.
charger, do not use it. Bad deal. All right. Cool. All right, Dan, anything for us?
Nothing from me this week.
All right.
All right.
Alex, anything from you, sir?
Yes. So, as Dave mentioned, next week is the FA Symposium. Rob and I will be attending that. Hopefully go to a couple of the sessions where they're talking about BV loss and get information to report on that.
And Rob will be a panel member.
Yes. And then on multi-GP side of things, we have our first Pro Spec kickoff race, and that is going to be August 9th through 10th, I think, 9 and 10.
And is that at a specific location, or does that happen around the country?
It is in Kansas. Yeah, August 9th through 10th at the National Agricultural Center, and the National Agricultural Center in Kansas City, I believe.
Good. Let me circle back to the FAA Symposium. We're really proud that Rob is sitting on a panel, and delighted that that Alex is able to attend. It's important for us to not only be there and learn, but also we know and we have known that these are places where the FAA is. It's the FAA Symposium, so it allows us access to FAA executives as well as the staff we've been working with through the year. So it's a good venue for us. It's effective. Anyone who thinks this is a perk, please go do a business show. I've done these for years and years with IBM. They're hard. There's long days. It's smiling and being pleasant to people all day long, which does not come naturally to me. I think it does for both Alex and Rob. But I'm delighted that they're going. They have my thanks, and I'm sure they'll share with us anything that of any salient news that they have coming back.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.
You guys
Dave-
should make you guys should make bingo cards and then fill them out when you hear terms. Like, do it before you go, and then make bingo cards and see if you can.
So it's like the
If you
Beltway
make a bingo
Beltway
card, I'll bring
cliche-
it with me.
Yeah, could it be Beltway cliches? Is that it?
predict
Yeah.
what the FAA is going to say, or stereotypical responses to questions. Yeah.
Well, also like network remote ID.
Right. Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
first and foremost on my mind.
That requires a waiver. We're working on that, but we really can't talk about it. The rulemaking has started, so we really can't accept any comments at this point. Yeah, that would be good.
So, Dave, there's a comment directed at you from Steady Eddie FPV that you still need to sign up to race on August 3rd. You need to warm
Well,
up your tiny trainer, and he has the track on Velocidrone.
Okay, all right.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
thank-
Steady Eddie told me to let you know that too. I guess I forgot.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
you
right.
have to go, Dave.
Well, I'm gonna be there. I may not be racing. Thank you. I will. The track is. I don't have any excuse but to be there. And Eddie, I will do my best to. I have no trouble embarrassing myself. So I mean, that's not an issue.
So,
And I
is somebody
definitely.
going to film it?
Oh.
If you're embarrassing
Yeah, we
yourself,
need DVR footage
Hey,
of this.
Yeah,
Dave.
if
Yeah.
no
make sure
video,
Eddie
it
gets
didn't happen.
PR for you.
Yeah. Yeah, the DVR on the my tiny trainer has a HD0 graphics in it, so
Oh
I
yeah,
should
look at it in high
so I
def.
should be able to capture the graphics of me. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you. And
epic.
yeah, so we see the questions a fair amount. Should I get into racing? I'm a little older, and usually
Yes.
those questions come from people who are significantly younger than me. So my response is always absolutely. I mean, my wife wants me to sell my motorcycle, so this is a lot safer than motorcycling. Thank you, Steady Eddie. I will
That's
definitely
awesome.
be there. I will do my best with respect to racing.
Just don't look at the gates, Dave. Look where you want to go.
Well, you want to go through the gates.
Right, or through, not
Exactly.
no target
Yeah.
fixation. Right.
Yep, 100%.
Well, you know that from riding motorcycles. You're good.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and what we're talking about is if you're in a turn and you're doing about 60 miles an hour and you see a little divot in the road, and if you look at that divot, you're gonna hit it, even if it's an inch or so wide. It's just absolutely amazing. So you look to next. The answer is you look next to and you look where you want to go. All
That's
right.
awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for your time tonight. We'll let you off a couple minutes early. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate the questions. And Steady Eddie, make sure Dave flies those gates and gets DVR of it. So that's our call out for you. Love it. And we appreciate you guys being here. And we'll see you again in another couple of weeks. And we'll keep you updated on any of the latest. And Rob and Alex will definitely be bringing back info from the FAA, and we'll see what we get there. So hopefully summer is not like it is here for y'all. You can get out and fly. I believe it was like in the 115 range here today. It's not pleasant. So, but if you live elsewhere where it's beautiful summer, take advantage of it, get out and fly. So thanks. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Take care.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Flying, get on board. We're smiling on top of the world. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.